Welcome back to the Anthony Unplugged channel. Happy Friday, happy weekend. Hopefully your weekend will be an amazing one. And in this particular video, it's going to be a slower paced, more methodical type of video. I made a post over a month ago saying I'll be doing more videos like this, where I'll be talking about the spirituality, cult aspects within our society, because it is a real thing that honestly needs to be talked about a lot more. And this particular video that I will be reacting to by Lungs of Faith, Zachary over there is doing an amazing job. Love his content. Chef's kiss anytime he pumps out content. It's quality. He talks about why Gen Z women are becoming witches, why there is a mainstream rise within the Wiccan, witches, paganism aspects within our culture, and it ties into feminism, I believe. I watched the first minute, the intro of this video, which we'll be reacting to, and I just had to stop and make a video of my own and blind react to what Zach has to say, because yes, I do talk about social political issues, at times mainstream political issues, left, right, activism, protests, ICE, what have you. But this is also a channel that believes in Jesus over here. We believe in the Bible, we believe in God. We're a conservative lens type of worldview as well, masculinity type of energy over here. But at the same time, if you believe in those things, you know there is a devil, you know there is Satan, you know there is sin, you know there is witches, you know there is magic, you know there is belief in many things that's anti-Christian. So this is a subject that does pertain to the overall aspect of my channel. So with that, grab your coffee, grab your tea, grab your energy drink. For me it is wine this time around. Let's see what Zach has to say on why Gen Z women are becoming witches and the whole goddess worship as well.
POV, resetting your body count to 0 through rituals.
Modern dating is a humiliation ritual. You either become dual income, no kids, or a cat breeder. Either way, you watch your bloodline die out. But we're beginning to realize that none of this was an accident. Just look at the fastest growing religions today. Among men, it's orthodoxy, rooted in tradition, self-sacrifice, traditional understandings of men and women. But among women, it's witchcraft, goddess worship, and new age spirituality, rooted in astrology, crystals, and worship of the divine feminine. But historically, this is not random. It's a clear indicator of a much deeper crisis. When civilizations are on the brink of collapse, one of the clearest indicators is that they turn back towards fertility cults, goddess figures, and the worship of the divine feminine. So when you see modern women turning to witch talk, divine feminine spirituality, pop star goddess worship, and antinatalist ideology, you are not just looking at a dating crisis. You are watching history repeat itself. The truth is, over the last 100 years, men—
So apparently witch talk is a thing over at TikTok. I made my TikTok for the first time yesterday. I never had it. I always thought it was toxic, but I made it for this channel to expand my channel, my content, and for research purposes. And I do follow YouTubers as well who have covered the occult, witch talk, that side of the aisle on that platform. But that line that Zach made, when civilization is on the brink of collapse, one of the clearest indicators is the return of, the coming back of fertility cult, goddess worship, worship of the divine feminist. That got me thinking of this one passage in Jonathan Cahn's book, who is an author and rabbi from the Christian side of the aisle. And here it is. If you guys want to take note, and I've been reading the crap out of it. So, the revival of goddess worship was also an outgrowth of the feminist revival that happened simultaneously to the occult revival. Occult revival, feminist revival, revival of the goddess worship. These are all points that Zach has made so far, man, and it's crazy how these things are coming together. But in this passage, it's also mentioned both were linked to Ishtar, and that got me thinking. Ishtar is the goddess of the Mesopotamian goddess from ancient times of beauty, sex, fertility, war, justice, love, political power. This is literally what women have been embracing nowadays, man. And Ishtar, just put in simple terms, I mentioned her a couple times in the channel, but she is the goddess that dominates the bedroom and the battlefield, basically. Women nowadays have been manifesting this dual characteristic of this goddess deity Ishtar, or also known as Inanna. You have the promiscuity, the sensuality, the seduction, the manipulation. Or you have the other side of the coin. You have the overly aggressiveness, the needing for power, the needing to dominate. Ishtar has always been considered as the goddess of the heavens by the ancient Muslims, I believe. And you have God the Father, Ishtar the Mother. You have Mother Nature, Mother Earth. The duality of nature being both a beautiful chaos. You have the paganistic aspect of nature and quote-unquote land worship, which are, I guess, core qualities of the forms of witchcraft, the various forms of witchcraft practices. You have goddess, you have queen, you have mother, slangs and references we all have been hearing more and more of. It's all connected. I'm sure Zach will be touching on, I'm 100% sure he'll be touching on the patriarchal resistance aspect of this movement of feminism and witchcraft and that side of the aisle. The down with the patriarchy movements are all done by design. It's not simply just down with the tyrannical government that's dominating everyone, you know, those men in positions of power, daddy government. It's literally down with the Christian white men, down with Christianity, you know, and that in itself means just down with Father God in the spiritual sense. And unfortunately, if God is removed from civilization and from any society, like in reference in Jonathan Cahn's book that I showed earlier, then something else will have to replace it. And unfortunately, it seems as though this goddess, witchcraft, paganistic type of movement or worship or practice is being that replacement and becoming mainstream and not so much taboo anymore.
Men and women have been part of a social engineering experiment that's been forming them in two completely separate and incompatible ways. But once we take a look at the data, the institutions, and the history of how witchcraft became the fastest growing female religion, the gender divide, birth rate crisis, and real story of feminism start to make more sense. And this is why. The uncomfortable truth that nobody wants to say out loud is that women are being used as vehicles for social engineering. That's why it simply doesn't work to tell men to just man up and get fit and focus on self-improvement.
Go swipe right. If your outcome is this, go learn how to DM. Go improve your DM game. Go improve how to message better. Go improve what emojis to send.
Because if it's truly the fault of our modern generation of men, then why were all the institutions and NGOs dumping billions into targeting women for the last 100 years? All you have to do is look at the data.
Do you believe in sin?
I think the greatest sin in the world is bringing children into the world.
We've all seen the typical statistics that women are much more liberal than men, much more educated than men, and men and women increasingly don't like each other and therefore aren't having kids. But the part nobody's talking about is that this is all just a symptom of a much deeper problem. Because amid this so-called progress of our modern society, the birth rates are collapsing at tremendous rates. The US total fertility rate hit a record low of around 1.6 births per woman in recent years, well below the 2.1 per woman replacement level. But the dark truth is that men and women no longer live in the same moral universe or have the same conception of right and wrong. But why is this happening? Because morality has to be grounded in a worldview. So what exactly do women believe?
Crystals.
Analysts are documenting that religion is on the rise in America. You might have seen all the videos saying that there's a massive religion resurgence, but not the ones that you might think. The fastest growing religious trends among men include Christian Orthodoxy, Roman Catholicism, with reports of a 78% surge in converts to Orthodoxy, with 20,000 people being baptized newly this year into the Orthodox Church, where for about every 2 men who enter Orthodoxy, only about 1 woman converts.
Do you guys think I should revert to Orthodoxy? I thought about it. I grew up in the Protestant faith. My father and grandfather were pastors, and the Protestant side of the aisle, Christianity. It's just Orthodoxy is one of the oldest, Christianity religions, but it's just some things about it, man. It looks like idolatry. I know many Catholics will say it's not. It's the, you're praying not to, but through these saints or what have you, and you're honoring them. You're trying to strive to be like them. But it's just, I don't know, it's a little sketchy in my book. But give me your reasons why I should revert to Orthodoxy. Again, I've been thinking about it, so.
So that's all fine and dandy, but where is all the female spiritual enthusiasm going? Because while many men are moving towards orthodoxy, tradition, hierarchy, sacrifice, and repentance, many women are actually moving in the opposite direction. For women, the fastest growing spiritual currents are Wicca, witchcraft, New Age spirituality, astrology, goddess worship, and religious disaffiliation. These are not neutral trends. They are female-centered, anti-patriarchal, and built around the divine feminine, personal autonomy, emotional healing, and manifesting spiritual power. And we're going to get into what these movements actually believe here in a bit, because it gets much darker than just crystals and horoscopes. But the part nobody is telling you, not the manosphere, not the so-called right-wing Christian influencers, not self-help gurus.
And that's like literally every dating social media profile about me section out there. Literally what you just said. Like, he's spot on with that. Oh, come healed. I'm healed. Crystals, Wicca, witches, me this, me that. It's never about, hey, what can I do for you type of aspect, but whatever.
Is that feminism itself is deeply religious. It has dogmas, it has saints, it has heresies, rituals, and sacred victims, and forbidden questions that you're not allowed to ask. And at the center of it all is one core belief: patriarchy must be destroyed.
Tonight I'm playing Ashniko Femdom, and it's a little bit of a power play. There are two men
it's my first time
holding
seeing
my
all this
hair.
now.
Down with the patriarchy. That's the message.
I was out here hating men before it became a thing.
But my real muse was David Bowie. He embodied male and female spirit, and that suited me just fine.
I believe in manifesting. I believe in all of that magic of life, and that keeps me excited.
Can you do a tarot card reading for me?
Oh my god, I wish I brought them.
Yeah, what is that? What, are you just walking around set looking to do readings
Every day. No, they come to me.
Oh, interesting.
They come to me.
Okay, so I like wearing body parts as jewelry. So I thought I wanted to wear my fans because I love my fans more than anything in the world. Right. So I thought they could send me their teeth, and then I made a headdress out of them, and I had like 1,000, so now I'm making a bra.
You said, I have to ask you this, you're telling me out of time that you've slept with a ghost. I have to ask you, have you slept with a ghost?
Go to the bone zone with a ghost.
Probably a demon. She's not trolling. She's been very adamant on like practicing like a lot of like witchcraft. She like collects, you know, her fans' teeth and wears them and does like weird stuff with them, bro. And she's admitted to doing this type of witchcraft and Call Her Daddy podcast. I remember I seen a clip from that.
Okay. And I make art out of them. I have my cats had to get their little teeth taken out because they were, I don't know, their little kitty wisdom teeth. I collect those too. I'm like the tooth fairy.
And didn't fans like used to send you their teeth?
Yeah. No, they still do.
And did you ask for that?
Yes.
What? How did that come?
I tweeted it.
You said what?
Can you send me your teeth?
Did you want to do with the teeth?
Well, so I make art. I make jewelry. I've made a crown, like a headdress. I made a belt.
Wait, the thing you're carrying isn't a tooth, right?
Oh no, that's my placenta.
That's your placenta, and that's in there. And do you travel with that everywhere?
Yeah.
What does it bring you?
I love a good ritual, right? Like I'm a cult leader. We all saw in the photo. And I love a ritual that reminds me esoteric world I prefer to live in.
That's worship. Modern pop stars are not just selling music anymore. They are selling archetypes. They are selling spiritual identities. Let's start with Beyonce. Beyonce is not simply marketed as a singer. She is quote-unquote Queen Bee. Her imagery constantly leans into royalty, fertility, divine femininity, African goddess symbolism, and mass devotion. In Lemonade, she appears in imagery associated with ocean, the goddess of beauty, sensuality, fertility, and water.
Is a form of worship.
In the song Church Girl, she fuses church language with sexual liberation language, as if the sacred space itself has become repurposed into a celebration of autonomy. And the most diabolical of all, she recites,
I saw the devil. I grew thick in skin on my feet. I bathed in bleach and plugged my menses with pages from the holy book.
Yes, she means she used sacred scripture as a tampon, but it gets more explicit. Ariana Grande has open...
Real quick, that's foul, man. That's some foul stuff. Like, I've committed sin in my life, but there are some things you don't do and lines you don't cross. That's mocking Jesus. That's some blasphemy. That's some evil stuff. I rebuke that in the name of Jesus, man. Like, Beyonce, she's married to Jay-Z. Jay-Z is a known like follower of Satan and the devil and Aleister Crowley. I remember he wore that shirt, do what thou wilt. on that sweater. And I remember saying that, I was like, yo, what the heck? How are people still listen to his music? I've seen a clip of this church service where in New York, when the Knicks won, this church, they started playing the Alicia Keys Jay-Z song, New York, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yo, you know who Jay-Z is, man? This dude is satanic as hell, man, with the eye crap and just the symbolism and many of his music. It's nuts, man. Like, and people just like to say it's just art. You don't understand. You don't understand the artists. If I'm wearing a Donald Trump MAGA red hat, you assume I am a follower. I'm a MAGA. If I'm wearing a Knicks sports jersey, you assume I am a Knicks fan. Like, if someone has a bunch of symbolism and satanic imagery and goddess worshiping imagery and symbolism in their music and lyrics, you assume that's what they believe in, and that's what, at the very least, they're trying to promote to you.
Openly embraced witchcraft in the occult. Literally releases a song called quote-unquote God is a Woman, and in the music video she is not just singing about empowerment, but she is placed at the center of the cosmos. She is surrounded by a choir. She reimagines religious art, even placing herself in the position of God the Creator in a recreation of Michelangelo's creation of Adam, which completely inverts the script because, as we all know, Eve came from Adam's rib. And when she performed it at the VMAs, the stage looked like a feminist Last Supper. Now, this stuff is not subtle, but then it gets a lot darker. Lady Gaga was one of the major bridges between the older blasphemous pop and the new ritualistic female celebrity cult. In Judas, she takes the imagery of Christ, Judas, and Mary Magdalene and turns it into pop psychology, betrayal, desire, and self-expression. In Alejandro, Catholic-coded imagery, rosaries, religious costumes, eroticism, and militarized choreography all collapse into one performance. With Gaga, pop becomes ritual, fame becomes religion, and the stage becomes an altar.
So the mockery and desecration in music, this is nothing new. It's been a thing since I've been alive. And they like to say they do it for the shock value, it's art. It's not that. Because Christianity represents the rules for society, the quote-unquote the establishment. So when an artist wants to express rebellion, they gravitate towards the ultimate counter symbol, the adversary, Satan, and anything that's ungodly. A metaphorical middle finger, because in Western societies, traditionally, the moral authority has always been, historically, the Christian church. And here's what I have to say about that. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because thou hast rejected the word of the Lord, he hath also rejected thee from being king. King James Version Bible, 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 23.
And in recent times, record labels are trying to make this seem cute. Sabrina Carpenter, she takes sacrilege and turns into a joke. Her feather music was filmed inside a Catholic church with coffins, death, veils, altar imagery, and men dying around her in stylized revenge comedy. When people were outraged, her response was basically quote-unquote Jesus was a carpenter. Then in taste, horror references, blood, revenge, obsession, even voodoo doll imagery. But then the altar turns openly satanic. The most striking example is the recent new artist Sophia Zella, whose music and performance embodies this new goddess archetype beyond blatantly. Her rapid emergence out of seemingly nowhere drips with female empowerment laced with man-hate and toxic rhetoric. Live, her concerts resemble religious services. Young girls worship her on stage.
Wow. Look at this, man.
Screaming lyrics in trance-like devotion, treating her as a...
Again, sorry to keep pausing, but that's idolatry. That's worshiping another human being. I know for a fact, it's probably in that music video, just comment sections, people defending, women acting this way towards this music artist, but I know they'll say too, oh, you don't understand. You don't understand, she saved me. Her music saved me. She's helping us, so many people. You don't understand. Like, you stop being such a hater, this, that. And it's like, again, there's a fine line between, enjoying another person's art and music and thinking it's cool, this and that, but weeping, reaching out, hands up, crying, almost glorifying another human being, an artist in that way. Like, that's something you should be doing to Jesus, my man, or my lady. Like, it's again, the symbolism, the gestures, the meanings. Like, people don't have God in mind when they don't do this for Jesus, but they're doing this for another human being. Maybe you should start weeping and worshiping and turning your attention towards God and not so much towards another human being, another artist who really doesn't care about you. You know, they'll say sweet nothings to your ear and you're falling in love and being enchanted towards it. And again, this is the goddess of Ishtar taking over people. You see it in the actions. Anyone with a discerning eye who knows anything about Christianity and spirits and the other world, God, we know how to discern between good and evil. I don't get good vibes from this lady. She literally looks like a witch, and people are worshiping her, and she's like, singing music, bringing a spell almost to these young girls. These are people's daughters. These are your sisters, your siblings, your friends, women you know, who are acting this way towards another human being who's being danced into a trance, a spell.
High priestess of feminine rage. This is goddess worship in real time. Tracks like, quote, everybody supports women promote these deeply entrenched feminist ideas as if they're just widely accepted by everybody and we all ought to believe them. Quote, everybody supports women until a woman is doing better than you. Her EP, quote, I Can Be Your Mother, features songs that blur maternal roles with dominance and seduction and have obvious goddess worship implications. Twists nurturing control into, quote, I can be your mother, I can be your dad, I can be anything but you. A demonic genderless delusion. In one video, she tempts men with fruit in a clear reenactment of Eve offering the forbidden apple to Adam in the garden, positioning women as seductive disruptors of order. Rituals of affirmation where traditional faith is replaced by secular idolatry of the empowered woman. And later in the video, we'll explore how she's actually taking on an ancient Hindu goddess archetype. Now, when we go into the philosophy and the people who pushed this idea into American mainstream, we will see that this was actually their goal. What's really going on? But before we get into that, I just want to quickly remind you all that Lungs of Faith is a one-man operation. It's just me. Videos like this take a huge amount of time to research, write, record, and edit. So if this channel has helped you think more deeply about these issues and you want to...
Might as well get my plug in too. If you like my content so far, I'm surprising. But if you're here, like, subscribe. Please comment your thoughts down below. I love engaging with you all. And with that, let's get back to the video.
This is where witch talk comes in, and what shocked me is how this isn't just a meme. This stuff is literally civilizational. It's so popular. It's in the hands of all of our young women, and it's honestly terrifying. Accounts with hundreds of thousands of millions of followers dedicated to blatant and overt witchcraft, teaching young women how to cast spells, manifest, and contact the demonic. Now, one of the biggest niches and ways this works into the popular consciousness is through dating advice and teaching women to cast spells on their boyfriends and future lovers without them knowing. Check it out.
If you came across this video, it's so you need to learn how to control that man and make him submit to your will.
I cast a spell on my boyfriend. The amount of time that you're hoping and wondering and fantasizing about him breaking no contact, girl, it's been over a week. Do witchcraft on him already.
When they ask how I get my man to listen and do whatever I say, control love spell.
Now, to all of the girl dads and the white knights, wake up. This is the reality. This could be your own daughter, because it's in every corner of the female internet, from entrepreneurship advice being littered with manifestation and seances to makeup tutorials caked in with spells.
I created my dream life using witchcraft. I'm now financially free, I built a successful art business from scratch, and I live in my dream apartment. And I'm gonna tell you how I did it. I always make sure to keep 3 spells in my home at all times, and that is a luck and abundance spell, a protection spell, and a transmutation spell. I do make all of these myself with ingredients from a metaphysical or grocery store, and I hand select every ingredient because I want to really resonate and align with everything that goes into the spell. And I do think that is the key to making a powerful spell.
I'm going to give you a very, very powerful business spell to cast. It is actually my personal one that I use myself. This spell is the reason why I have such high quality clients, throw their money at me, who are loyal, who don't waste no time, all of the check boxes.
Because with enchantments, sometimes it really is easy as taking the cologne, maybe matching herb if you want to bathe it in that. Take a cologne, your beauty sigil, put it underneath it, and spray your cologne. Bewitched.
Welcome to Glamour Magic 101.
Okay, goddesses, let's talk about strawberry magic. So strawberries are really, really great for seduction.
I think this one ate the strawberries before she even got to the spell. The content that dominates online typically reveals what people are actually hungry for, and right now a massive amount of popular women's content is astrology, witchcraft, divine feminine energy, manipulation, therapy speak, anti-motherhood empowerment. Meanwhile, men's content is obsessed with success, lifting, discipline, money, and self-improvement, which, don't get me wrong, all have their serious problems, but pretending that men are equally in as bad of a state as women is just completely delusional. Men are being told to become stronger, women are being told they are goddesses. Those are not the same problem. An increasingly popular trend among young women is using their menstrual blood in rituals.
Think carefully about who you're doing this for, because you won't be able to distance yourself from.
I know there's like a well-known witch in the rich and powerful circle, celebrity, music especially. Her name is Mariana Abramovich. She's been around the block for quite some bit, very well known. She's into like spirit cooking. She has close ties with Jay-Z, Beyonce, Kim Kardashian, the whole Kardashian family, many other powerful celebrities as well, and just powerful people in general, like the elites. And she's openly practicing spirit cooking, and she disguises it a lot of times as art, and people accept it as art. But again, discerning eye. We believe in Jesus over here. It's said in the Bible, like the passage I just read in 1 Samuel. There's witchcraft, there's divination, there's wicked and evil things in this world. Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not saying he was involved in blood magic, but he definitely was involved in some weird cult ritualistic aspects, and that's, I don't think necessarily allegedly anymore. It's proven now, and it's widely accepted that Epstein is involved in that elite circle, the rich and the powerful, with celebrities as well, all over the world. And he's involved in, if you don't believe any of this witch stuff, we're living in a time where we have this rich billionaire involved, has his web spread out in many avenues all around the world, involved in cults, ritualistic, PDF things, cannibalistic things, allegedly. So if that thing is for real, you best believe this world, anything can happen. All right, so take that as you will. This is a wicked world we're living in.
Life. If you are on your period, it is much more effective.
And then it moves into relationships.
I remember when I did a love spell on my boyfriend because he was treating me bad and I wanted him to act differently. It worked.
What?
And the worst part is that even though they may be communicating with the demonic, getting insights from the enemy, much of the time they don't even see this as being witchcraft, but simply see this as something harmless that just works.
Okay, ready? We listen and we don't judge. In 2022, me and my boyfriend broke up in August, and I pretty much spent 9 months wishing that we would get back together and trying to find a way to get back together with him. And I was in my delusional era, so I was on TikTok on the tarot card girls that like tell you that your ex is gonna be back to you. Yeah, so that was all over my For You page, and I saw this video of this girl doing this love spell, and I think she was a witch, but I don't know. And I was in a time of desperation, and I did the love spell, and within 2 days he was texting me and calling me, and then within a week we were hanging out, and now we've been back together for over a year and a half, almost 2 years, and I am convinced that's the love spell.
Man, I'm about to delete my TikTok before I even start really using it, man. I take it back. I'm deleting my TikTok.
Actually worked, and I have kept it because I'm afraid to throw it away, because if I throw it away, what if he breaks up? We break up, and this man now worships the ground I walk on like it's a completely different relationship than we were together before, and he would literally take a bullet for me, and it is the most healthy and best relationship I have ever had. And I swear that those rich girls, they just know something that we don't, because I never believed it, and I believe. We listen and we don't judge.
But this just speaks to the grand delusion of the masses today and the lack of proper Orthodox Christian spiritual formation regarding the demonic. But once we get to the true history of feminism and the occult and what they're trying to accomplish, it sobers you up very quickly. But how did this happen? How did witchcraft go from something whispered about in the shadows, actively condemned and discouraged in society, to something your average suburban girl finds between skincare tutorials and dating advice? How did astrology, spell jars, blood rituals, goddess worship, and manipulation magic become normal enough to be packaged as...
I picked up a study Bible last weekend and at Barnes & Noble, bam. I'm sorry, Books A Million, sorry. And I've noticed that even there's like a little section of this kind of, spiritual, witchy, Wiccan type of I guess, practice. But free country, I guess. It's illegal.
Quote-unquote healing. Well, this is where the story gets much bigger and points to a much more serious indicator of the state of our society, because historically when civilizations begin to collapse, they without fail turn back towards fertility cults, goddess figures, mystery religion, magic, and the divine feminine. And you see this in the late Roman world with the spread of mystery cults like Isis and Cybele. You see this in collapsing pagan societies where fertility, sexuality, and sacred feminine power become spiritual substitutes for a dying civic order. When a society loses God the Father, it starts looking for God the Mother.
Basically what I said.
One of the most important figures in the rise of modern occult spirituality was Helena Petrovna Blavatsky. Born in the Russian Empire in 1831, Blavatsky became the central founder of something called the Theosophical Society in 1875, a movement that claimed to recover an ancient hidden wisdom beneath all world religions. Theosophy did not present Christianity as the final revelation of God. It treated Christianity as but one fragment of a much larger esoteric system, alongside Hinduism, Buddhism, reincarnation, spiritual evolution, hidden masters, occult powers, and secret knowledge. The society's goals were openly institutional, to form a quote universal brotherhood of humanity, to encourage comparative religion, philosophy, and science, and to investigate the quote unexplained laws of nature and quote powers latent in humanity. In other words, Blavatsky was not just selling private witchcraft, she was helping build a new spiritual framework for the modern world, one that could ultimately be synthesized into a single point of control, placing itself figuratively above all formal organized religion, which made it attractive to wealthy institutions and hegemonies that wanted to consolidate their power. And this is where ties between feminism, goddess worship, and institutions funding the stuff like the Rockefellers become impossible to ignore, as we will continue to see. Blavatsky's first major work was literally called Isis Unveiled, attempting to present the goddess Isis as a symbol of hidden wisdom beneath the surface of ordinary religion, casting the narrative that patriarchy must be defeated and replaced with the matriarchy, using Isis as a very useful symbol or Trojan horse.
Isis is very similar to Ishtar, so it's crazy. Zach is crazy with this stuff, man. I just wanted to say I love his edits. That's goals right there, man. He's so good with that edits, man. I want to be like him in that way. Anyways, but he's spot on with this. Many of the characteristics of this Isis deity is the same with Ishtar. Crazy, man.
Into achieving that end. Later, feminist occult writers also turned Isis into a model of sacred feminine power, hence the obscene amounts of imagery relating to Isis in today's popular entertainment landscape. Historian Joy Dixon, in Divine Feminine, Theosophy and Feminism in England, argues that Theosophy and its pantheon of goddesses became deeply connected to feminist political culture. Theosophists claim that women and, quote, the East possess spiritual forces that Western man had lost through materialism, empire, and rationalism. That is basically an early form of what we now call, quote, the divine feminine. This was not yet witch talk, but it was the seedbed, and it planted itself at the heart of the first wave feminist suffragist movement. A perfect example that we need to understand after Blavatsky is Annie Besant. Now, it's common online to hear from men and women and even self-professed Christians that, oh well, first wave feminism was good, but things got out of control with second and third wave feminism.
Feminists, look, the status quo, feminists ask for it, you're gonna get equality. You ask for equality,
that wasn't
you get
original
equality.
Feminism, though.
No, well, feminism has always been a man-hating ideology, but that's another conversation.
That's not true either.
Conversation.
That's not true either.
And so my position would be we should give feminism credit for the good things it has done to improve women's dignity throughout the course of history, so including what first wave and even some second and third wave feminists.
I think from the beginning, feminists have always been concerned with this core question. What does it mean to be just to women as women?
Mainstream narrative and mainstream idea is to not do that, not be at home and with the family or have a family or want to have kids. But again, there's nothing wrong with the women not wanting any of those things. That's why I love America. We have our freedom, despite the consequences, despite many of these freedoms I don't agree with, these lifestyles I don't agree with, but it is what it is. I do hope we get back to how things were, back in the 1950s. Not saying women should be slaving away and shutting up. I'm not saying all that, even though some of them should, but not all of them. So you know, and I think a lot of it starts with men. We need to start taking charge, not necessarily calling these women out, which we should, but calling other men out, because a lot of other men are enabling a lot of this consequences to ensue and not taking a stand. But world's complicated. And I freaking called it that Zach will be doing this patriarchal resistance type of like talking point. I knew he was going to bring up patriarchy stuff, man.
Do you have to have a reason? We're in a jam, aren't we? I'm sorry, but you'll have to excuse me. I'm too busy to answer damn fool questions like that.
In other words, the very traits often associated with femininity were rebranded as higher forms of knowing. This is the part people conveniently ignore when they romanticize first-wave feminism. Its roots were not only voting rights and legal reform. The first wave was explicitly occult, anti-patriarchal, anti-Christian, and revolutionary from the very beginning. Wicca. No, not Wicca. Although we are real Wiccas out here. Wicca with 2 C's. You've probably heard about it online, but most people don't really understand what it is. The topic has long been going viral, especially as it's been rising to becoming the most popular religion among women today.
Wicca is one of the most popular branches of paganism, and there are so many different traditions.
But what exactly is it, and where did it come from? Before we get to answering that hot question, we need to touch on Aleister Crowley, who was the so-called spiritual father of the inventor of Wicca. Crowley was a British occultist, ceremonial magician, and founder of Thelema, the modern occult religion built around the famous satanic command, quote, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law." He called himself, quote, the Beast 666, practiced what he called, quote, magic, and placed enormous emphasis on will, sexual rituals, and spiritual self-divinization. This matters because Crowley represented a shift from religion as obedience towards God towards spirituality as the expression of sovereign self. That is the bridge to the modern world. That was the vehicle that was actually used to make these abstract philosophies flourish into the mainstream. Sex becomes magical technique, the body becomes a ritual instrument, then will becomes sacred, and you see it all over Barnes & Noble bookstores, where essentially all of a sudden now they're giant metaphysical witchcraft bookstores. But this did not stay isolated. Crowley's ideas influenced the world of modern occultism, especially through Thelema and Ordo Templi Orientis. Most importantly for this story, scholars have specifically connected Crowley to the early development of Wicca, because the modern witchcraft revival did not simply descend untouched from ancient village paganism. And that brings us to the man who would package that occult stream into modern religion for the post-Christian West. Gerald Gardner, the central figure behind the invention of Wicca.
Working with witches in the team, we can produce results. But can you give me any example of these results that you claim? Well, here I've got a wax image was made 11 months ago, last November precisely. A man was doing a very clever bit of blackmail, attempting to get some property. Because we can't fight against him, he's too strong. But the man wouldn't. He said it cost him £3,000, he wouldn't give it up. So he went to a witch. So she bound him up so he couldn't move in the matter. And pinned his lips together so he couldn't speak in the matter. And within 2 days afterwards, his lawyer wrote in and said, I'll asking him and insist on renouncing all claims, and insist on signing documents to that effect, and we'll send them to you as soon as they've been stamped.
Gardner claimed that witchcraft was not merely superstition, but the survival of an ancient pre-Christian religion. In witchcraft today, he presented witches as initiates of a, quote, an old and probably Stone Age religion, preserving ancient knowledge through covens, circles, and goddess-centered worship. But this is where the story gets important, because Wicca presents itself as ancient, but scholars generally describe it as a modern reconstruction, modern invention. It was systematized in the 20th century through Gardner, drawing from folklore, ritual magic, Western esotericism, the discredited witch cult theory, and reconstructed pagan material. And Oxford's work on Crowley and Wicca notes that Gardner drew heavily on Crowley's work in the early stages of Wicca, even if that influence later sort of got buried under the sand. And that is why it fit the post-Christian West so perfectly. Wicca gave modern people the feeling of ancient religion without the authority of the church, ritual without obedience, nature without creation, sexuality without procreation, goddess worship and unrestrained sexuality and slavery to the passions, and spiritual power without repentance.
Witchcraft is basically an avenue for many of those practitioners to not be tied down to the rules, quote unquote, of God the Father, of Christianity, because being a Christian, and I'm trying to get better at this, there are strict rules that you got to follow, commandments, and just many of the things that Jesus teaches, and many of the things that the prophets in the Bible teaches us as well, that the sins of for us not to commit. And many of these sins are super pleasurable, they're super indulging, they're enticing, you know, people want to do these things and feel free. Their individualistic, selfish selves want to indulge, and this has been one of my problems with like lust, indulgence, and pleasure. That's been one of my biggest sins, and you know, that's something I'm not afraid to say. I made a video about that too, struggling with Christianity, and you know, it's hard, and people don't want to be uncomfortable. They don't want to face struggle. They want an easy, pleasurable, free, quote unquote happy and feel good type of life to do whatever they want. They don't want to feel restrained with rules. This is why there's such a big push in many of these paganistic, satanic, anti-Christian, you know, occult-ish practices, movements, and just ideas, ideologies, and the energy, the vibes. It's all out there. The anti-Christian vibe is real, and I'm someone who likes to, you know, challenge myself physically. I like to learn things. I like to try new things, and whether I am successful or fail, I love pushing myself. And you know, I'm human. I am, of course, get tired, I get lazy, what have you, or I'm unmotivated, but it's within me. It's always been within me. And so trying to strive to be a better Christian, it's super hard, man. I struggle every day to do the right thing, to not backslide, but
it's been amazing. Literally, when I got my freedom, I was like, I think, you know, I'm pissed about a lot of stuff, but one of the things is that, like, pleasure. I keep coming back to pleasure. Like, it is okay as a woman to feel pleasure in this world. When you go through things, pleasure is not like the number one neural pathway that your brain always goes to when you have survived things. And I had to reprogram that, and I do it every fucking day, and I'm not even embarrassed about it.
You shouldn't be. You absolutely shouldn't be. And I think especially as women, I relate to, like, I think when we are stressed or we're going through something traumatic, the actual last thing that we can think about is sex and pleasure, because our bodies are.
But this is why so many people, they choose the wide path and not the narrow. And because it's easy, it's feel good, it's pleasurable. They could feel free.
But the 1960s are where this stops being an elite occult world and becomes mass youth culture. Before this, you had Blavatsky, Theosophy, Crowley, ceremonial magic, and Gardner systematizing modern Wicca. But in the 1960s, those older streams exploded into the mainstream through music, drugs, sexuality, psychology, Eastern religion, and rebellion. The counterculture rejected almost every inherited institution: the church, the family, sexual morality, patriotism, hierarchy, and traditional authority. But this wasn't accidental. It replaced Christianity with personal spiritual experience. Young people turned to psychedelics, yoga, meditation, Hinduism, Buddhism, astrology, occultism, Wicca, commune, free love, and the language of, quote, expanded consciousness. Figures like Timothy Leary and Richard Alpert at Harvard helped popularize psychedelic experimentation. Alpert later became Ram Dass, one of the major bridges between psychedelics and Eastern spirituality. The Beatles helped make Indian religion and transcendental meditation fashionable. Alan Watts brought Zen and Eastern mysticism into the American imagination.
Why do we have to put ourselves in boxes? Why?
I think I'll end the video here. It's been a long enough video. But look, pick up Jonathan Sakan's book first and foremost, Return of the Gods. He literally talked about, he has chapters on the 1960s and how that was the end of America being a godless society as a nation, as a civilization, and how in the ushering in of new gods, or I'm sorry, not new gods, the return of the old gods coming back into the play. He talked about Moloch, Ishtar, even Baal, however you want to pronounce that. It gets deep and crazy, but it all makes sense. And even Zachary and Lungs of Faith has touched on many aspects of this book. So it's crazy how those who are yoked and aligned within God and walking with God and, you know, just embracing the Christian faith, whether it's Christianity, Catholicism, what have you, walking with God in mind, how we all can come together. And I'm trying to find my way as well, and I'm learning, and I'm trying to hopefully you know, get better at being a Christian, but at the same time, I'm telling you guys what I know, what I've learned, and just how wicked this world can be, especially with all this occultism, Wiccan, witches, the whole craze that's going on with Gen Z, the young women, just young people in general, just people in general here in America going crazy with this occult stuff. And there are more occult, you know, practices out there that I definitely want to tap into and talk about more with you guys. So again, like and subscribe this video to my channel. It helps with the algorithm, helps this channel grow. I had fun doing this video. I had to break it up. That's why I changed my, not my outfit, but I had to shave because I had to break up the day. Long video, my longest video yet, but it was fun. And Lungs of Faith, great YouTube channel. Zachary kills it every time. I cannot express it enough. My brother, I love your content. I'm super intrigued by your content, and I'm impressed by what you edit. I love it. So with that, I love y'all. God bless. Up until next time, I'll know I'll be on again. Bye bye.